Sean Holyfield, CEO and founder of HR Law Made Easy, and I'm here today to talk to you about how HR Law Made Easy does what its name says, which is making HR law easy. So what we did years ago is we discovered that unless you've got all of the laws from all of the states for a particular topic, you're not going to be able to actually let somebody know whether or not they are complying with those laws or are actually compliant with those laws. Not really a novel concept, but it is something that no one else had previously done. So we discovered that if we don't go get every one of the HR laws, bring them into a platform, read and understand them, we're not able to then identify the exact required things and stuff or content that your organization needs in order to get that content to your people, and then to be able to prove that your people actually viewed, signed, or acknowledged that content. So I'm going to walk through that. In the US, there are over 1.5 million HR laws. Sounds like a lot because it is a lot. And those laws get updated all the time. In fact, there are thousands of new laws every year in the US tied to HR related content. And those laws come in one of four forms. There's either codes, which are created by the people that we vote into office. That would be the Senate, House of Representatives, the Congress at a state and federal level. There are regulations or regs that are actually created by agencies like the Department of Labor or other departments that are created by state governments and or the federal government. There's the agencies themselves, which release publications and information, notices on their website. And then there's court cases. And court cases, by far, biggest bucket of law. Tons and tons of court cases that are out there related to employment laws or HR laws. So this is the picture of the laws that exist in the US. The state governments, as well as the federal government, as well as some local governments, are constantly creating new laws, and those laws fall into one of four buckets. So HR Law Made Easy went out and grabbed every single code, every single regulation, all agency guidance, and all cases, so that we could have all of that information in our platform as a starting point. Because the very first thing that we need to do in order to get compliant with the laws is to have the laws. Now that we have all of those laws, the next step is that we have to go through those laws and identify all of the required things and stuff. So we could call this content, because what it is a list of things that we have to do as a business in order to comply with the laws. And that list of things that we have to do falls into one of six buckets: policies or rules that we have to share with our employees, procedures, those are things that we have to do in a specific sequence or order, agreements, those are agreements that we need to get signed by our employees, documents, those would be specific documents that we're required to have, including forms that we need to have employees fill out, notices and posters, which are usually those posters that you see in a break room, but there are over 3,300 notices and posters in the US that you need to have available to you if you're operating nationwide. And lastly, training. And the training is sometimes required and sometimes not, but stuff like anti-harassment training, anti-discrimination training, anti-retaliation training, and more. So these required things in stuff, documents, or content, it comes from the law. If you have all of the laws and you've read all the laws, then you would know exactly which individual policies, procedures, agreements, documents, notices and posters and training that your organization needs in order to have the right compliance content. Now, that's often where many companies stop. There are many companies that provide training. There are many companies that provide policies. Attorneys do these things. But we're the first company to go in and grab all of the laws and to put all of this content in one place based on where you operate. So when you come into the platform, you fill out something called a workplace profile. That workplace profile behind the scenes is using all of the knowledge that we've gained from reading all of these laws, all of the knowledge that we've gained from creating all this content for you that we have in the platform. And based on these laws and based on this content and based on where your workplace works, where you operate, where your employees are located, how many employees you have, your industry, and more, we're able to bring to the table all of the required things and stuff so that you have this in hand to start. And it's a great starting point for compliance, but we're not done yet, because once you have all of this stuff, you've got to share this content with your employees. And then those employees have to either view, sign, or acknowledge this content. And depending on the type of content, depends on what they need to do with it. Some types of content need to be signed, like agreements. Some types of content need to be viewed, like notices and posters. Some types of content need to be acknowledged, like trainings. And in some cases, there needs to be a signature, signing off on the fact that the employee actually did the training. So this required content then needs to be shared with employees. And that's actually something that we do through our employee portal. So the employee portal allows you to share content with employees simply and easily by grabbing this content, sharing it with employees, and now they receive it digitally where they can look at this information digitally and either view it, sign it, or acknowledge it. And we go a step further because it's not just enough to grab the content. It's not enough to tell somebody, I shared it. You've got to be able to prove it. And that's the compliance files that the platform stores. So within HR Law Made Easy, we have compliance files by employee. So every employee by name has a list of content that was shared with them, the day and the time that they either viewed it, signed it, or acknowledged it, which is their compliance file. And that compliance file can be exported and shared with somebody else to the extent that there's a question about whether or not the employee did something or not. And also it's something that you can manage and look at and dive into to find out which employees are compliant or not. So with HR Law Made Easy, we go from law all the way through the content that you need to sharing that content with your people and making sure that you're actually compliant with the law, meaning that we can prove by day, time, content type, what employees did with that, and all that gets stored within the platform. This is how a company gets compliant. And if we're missing any of these things, we're not able to actually be compliant with the HR laws in the US. HR Law Made Easy. Thanks.